Welcome everyone to another deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We've got a really fascinating one today.
We do. Today we're looking at a recent press release and some supplementary background materials from a company called JE Business Solutions LLC.
Right. And on the surface, at first glance, this is just a standard corporate expansion announcement.
Yeah, exactly. It just details a company's new direction under its leader, Ja-Net Edgecombe.
But as we actually dug into the source material, we realized we were staring at something else entirely.
We were looking at this incredibly sophisticated blueprint for professional evolution.
A total masterclass.
Yeah, a masterclass in how to take 3 decades of very specific, very human-centric experience and just totally weaponize it.
Weaponize it into a highly specialized financial enterprise.
Right. So our mission today for this deep dive is to figure out exactly how she's doing this, because it's wild.
It really is a fascinating pivot. When you look at the architecture of what JE Business Solutions is building, you see a textbook real-world execution of a concept.
A concept we call skill arbitrage, right?
Exactly. Skill arbitrage.
Let's unpack that for the listener really quick.
Sure. So skill arbitrage is this business strategy where you take a skill that is ubiquitous or completely expected in one specific industry.
Like in this case, teaching in public service.
Right. And you apply that same skill to a completely different industry where it's incredibly rare.
And by doing that, you create this immediate, almost unassailable competitive moat.
You do, because nobody else in that new space has those specific reps.
I just love that framing, skill arbitrage. Because when I first read this material, I thought, okay, moving from public service and education into life insurance.
It's a jump.
It's a massive paradigm shift. The financial sales world is notoriously cutthroat.
It really is.
It feels like you're driving down this quiet suburban street and suddenly you just merge right onto a Formula One track.
That's a great way to put it. But the materials reveal that this isn't an abandonment of her past.
No, not at all.
It's a translation of it.
Precisely. To understand the magnitude of this pivot, we really have to look at the foundation she's building upon.
The source materials detail a really extensive background.
We're talking over 30 years of public service.
For 30 years, and that includes nearly 20 years directly in education.
Right, and then another full decade as a state employee for the Wisconsin Department of Health Services.
The DHS, yeah. Which implies a deeply ingrained understanding of complex bureaucratic structures.
And fundamental human needs.
Wow.
I mean, you don't survive 10 years in a massive state department like the Wisconsin DHS without mastering how to navigate dense regulations.
Oh, absolutely. The regulations, the complex systems, the sheer administrative friction that comes with public health and service.
It's trial by fire.
And you definitely don't survive 20 years in education without mastering the psychology of human development.
Or communication.
Yeah.
But, the background material actually goes even deeper into her personal life.
Which is crucial here because it directly informs this new business model.
Exactly, and highlights a 28-year marriage.
28 years.
And crucially, her experience raising 3 adult children with autism and cognitive disabilities.
Furthermore, she spent years as a Special Olympics coach and advocate.
Let's just pause right there for a second, because that is not just biographical filler.
No, not at all.
That right there is the crucible where extreme patience advocacy and long-term strategic planning are forged.
It completely reframes her mission.
Right. When we talk about longevity and dedication to families, which, by the way, is a core marketing pillar for New Financial Wing, she isn't just using corporate buzzwords.
She has lived it on the most intense, demanding level possible.
Navigating the medical, the educational, and the financial systems for 3 children with special needs.
It requires an administrative tenacity that is just unmatched.
A ferocious level of advocacy that most corporate executives will, frankly, never have to muster in their entire lives.
And it creates a unique lens through which to view financial planning entirely. Well, someone with that specific background doesn't view a life insurance policy or a financial strategy as just a line item on a spreadsheet.
Or a quick commission check.
Exactly. They view it as critical infrastructure for survival and dignity.
That's a really powerful distinction.
They understand that a financial failure doesn't just mean a lower stock portfolio.
Right. It means a disruption in essential care.
It means a threat to family stability and a terrifying vulnerability for those who cannot advocate for themselves.
Which brings us perfectly to the first major theme we've pulled from this announcement.
The educator's edge.
The educator's edge. The source text formally introduces Ja-Net Edgecombe as an educator, a coach, and now a licensed life insurance producer.
And her stated passion is equipping others.
Yes, equipping others. And the press release insists this remains the absolute heart of the business.
Which is so interesting when you contrast it with the industry standard.
It really is. Because let's be real, when I hear life insurance agent, my blood pressure immediately spikes.
Oh, I think a lot of people have that reaction.
I instantly flash back to being 24 years old, trapped at my own kitchen table.
Let me guess, a guy in a suit.
A guy in a cheap, shiny suit, aggressively drawing triangles on a yellow notepad.
The classic yellow notepad pitch.
It was awful.
Yeah.
He used all these fear-based tactics, essentially threatening me with the financial ruin of my hypothetical future family.
Just to get a signature.
Literally, until I bought a policy just to make him leave my house. It is a terrifying adversarial stereotype.
But it's a stereotype rooted in decades of actual industry practice.
Right? It didn't come from nowhere.
Historically, the life insurance industry has been plagued by a massive asymmetry of information.
The agent knows everything and the client knows nothing.
Precisely. The agent understands the actuarial tables, the mortality charges, the intricate mechanics of the policy.
And the consumer's just trying to keep up.
And for the better part of the 20th century, that asymmetry was actively leveraged.
Weaponized, really.
Agents were trained in high-pressure closing tactics designed to force a transaction before the consumer could fully digest the complexity of what they were actually buying.
I hear that, and it makes sense. But let's play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go ahead, go for it.
30 years in public service and academia is a long time. The financial sector, even today, is deeply competitive.
Very competitive.
It requires driving a client to take action.
Yeah.
Right. You have to get them to actually sign the application.
Do the medical exam, fund the policy.
Exactly. It's not just about passing a multiple choice quiz at the end of a lesson.
Right.
So is there a risk that an educator mindset is simply too passive for an industry that requires closing a sale?
That is the standard industry critique of the educational model. You hear it all the time. Teachers don't close.
Teachers don't close. Wow.
But that critique fundamentally misunderstands the science of adult learning.
Which is?
It's called andragogy.
Andragogy. Okay.
Pedagogy is the teaching of children. It's often subject-centered, passive, and reliant on authority.
Like, learn this because I said it will be on the test.
Exactly. Andragogy, on the other hand, is problem-centered.
So it's about solving real issues.
Adults learn best when they clearly see how the information directly solves an immediate pressing problem in their own lives.
Ah, so it's not about lecturing them on the history of whole life insurance.
Exactly the opposite. A master educator utilizing andragogy doesn't pitch a product. They facilitate a realization.
Facilitate a realization.
When Ja-Net sits down with a client, her goal isn't to push a specific policy to meet a monthly quota.
Right.
Her goal is to uncover the client's deepest financial anxieties, which, by the way, she is uniquely equipped to do given her background.
You're talking about the certification, right, as a marriage and family strategist.
Yes, I saw that in the notes.
I noticed that too, and I was wondering, how does a marriage and family strategist certification actually play into selling life insurance?
Well, think about where financial decisions are actually made.
At the kitchen table.
Exactly. They aren't made in corporate boardrooms. They're made at the kitchen table, often between two spouses who have entirely different emotional relationships with money.
Oh, that's so true. Different views on risk mortality debt.
One spouse might be terrified of debt, while the other is overly optimistic about market returns.
And a traditional salesperson just ignores that dynamic entirely.
They just pitch the numbers. They draw the triangles.
But a marriage and family strategist
Recognizes the unspoken tension. They mediate the emotional blocks and create a safe space for the couple to actually align on their shared goals.
that is an incredible application of skill arbitrage.
It really is.
She is essentially conducting couples therapy focused specifically on financial risk management.
Yes. And once that alignment is reached, the sale isn't a high-pressure close anymore.
Because they're already on board.
It is the logical, mutually agreed-upon solution to the exact problem they just spent an hour defining.
The client takes action, not because they are afraid of the agent, but because they have been educated on the exact mechanics of how the product protects what they love.
And this completely eliminates buyer's remorse.
Which is a massive issue in the insurance industry.
Huge issue.
That makes total sense. If I buy something because I was pressured A, I cancel the direct debit 3 months later when money gets tight.
Without a second thought.
But if I buy something because I fully understand how it guarantees my autistic son's care long after I'm
Oh,
gone,
never cancel it.
I will cut every other expense in my budget before I let that policy lapse.
Which is exactly why the educator mindset is ultimately more profitable and sustainable in the long run than the boiler room sales mindset.
It creates stickiness.
Exactly. It creates stickiness.
So if she is bringing this master-level educational framework to the table, what exactly is the curriculum? What are they teaching people to utilize?
That leads us right to the actual products.
Right. Which brings us to the second segment of our deep dive, redefining life insurance.
This is where the strategy gets really tangible.
The press release notes that JE Business Solutions has partnered with Experior Financial Group,
Which they describe as one of North America's fastest-growing insurance and investment brokerages.
right. And through this partnership, the financial solutions wing of JE Business Solutions is offering life insurance with living benefits.
Living benefit of financial education and protection strategies.
And they are heavily targeting both families and entrepreneurs.
A really interesting dual focus.
Let's unpack that phrase, living benefits, because this completely shatters the traditional understanding of the product.
It changes the entire conversation.
When most people hear life insurance, they think of a death benefit. It's binary.
You are alive, so you pay premiums.
Right. You pass away and a check goes to your family. It is inherently tied to your demise.
It's static.
But living benefits implies you can access the value of the policy while you are still breathing.
To understand the impact of this, we need a brief look at the evolution of the industry.
Okay, lay it out for us.
For a very long time, life insurance was essentially just burial insurance or basic widow protection.
Like we said, a static, inflexible contract.
But over the last few decades, the industry innovated heavily. They introduced products like Indexed Universal Life, or IUL, and added sophisticated riders to policies.
Let's clearly define the financial mechanics here for the listener,
Good idea.
because living benefits isn't just a marketing slogan, right?
No, it refers to accelerated death benefit riders.
Accelerated death benefit riders.
These are legally binding clauses added to a life insurance policy that allow the policyholder to advance a significant portion of their own death benefit.
Often completely tax-free.
Yes,
Okay.
often tax-free. They can access it if they experience a specific qualifying event.
So what kind of events actually trigger these riders?
Generally, they fall into three categories: terminal illness, chronic illness, and critical illness or injury.
Okay, terminal illness is pretty straightforward. A doctor gives you less than 12 to 24 months to live.
Right. Chronic illness usually means you are unable to perform 2 of the 6 standard activities of daily living, or ADLs.
ADLs, what are those?
Bathing, dressing, eating, transferring, toileting, and continence.
Got it.
Or it implies severe cognitive impairment.
And then the third one, critical illness.
Critical illness covers major sudden health shocks, a massive heart attack, a debilitating stroke, invasive cancer, or major organ failure.
So instead of your family having to wait until you die to get financial relief if you suffer a massive stroke and survive, but are unable to work or bathe yourself, the policy actually pays out a lump sum directly to you.
Correct. While you are still alive.
And what can you use that money for?
Anything, really. You can use it to pay for specialized in-home care, retrofit your house with wheelchair ramps, replace your lost income.
Or even pay for experimental medical treatments that aren't covered by standard health insurance.
Exactly. It transforms life insurance from a contingency plan for your death into a dynamic, active asset class that manages the risk of your life.
That fundamentally changes the conversation around the kitchen table.
It's no longer just a morbid discussion about passing away.
You aren't just discussing death. You are discussing how to financially survive a medical catastrophe.
And this ties directly back to Ja-Net's background.
Oh, absolutely it does.
If you have spent decades raising children with severe cognitive disabilities, and you have worked for the Department of Health Services, you have seen firsthand the devastating financial toll that chronic long-term care takes on a family.
You know that surviving a medical crisis is only half the battle.
Surviving the financial fallout of that crisis is often just as hard.
She understands the systemic fragility of the average household.
Deeply. And this brings us to why the text specifically groups families and entrepreneurs together as their target demographic.
Right on the surface, a family looking for a safety net and a small business owner looking for growth seem to have very different financial goals.
They do seem different at first glance.
But the business is the family's engine. If the entrepreneur goes down, the family goes down.
Exactly. For a small or mid-sized business owner, their personal financial health and their corporate financial health are inextricably linked.
They are completely tied together.
Let's walk through the mechanics of a real-world scenario to illustrate this.
Perfect. I love scenarios.
Imagine an entrepreneur who owns a successful mid-size manufacturing company.
Okay, manufacturing company.
They employ, say, 30 people. The entrepreneur is the key driver of revenue, the primary relationship holder with vendors, and the visionary for the company.
They are the linchpin.
Now imagine this entrepreneur suffers a severe heart attack.
One of those critical illnesses we just talked about.
Right. They survive, but their cardiologist mandates 6 months of absolute rest and rehabilitation. They cannot step foot in the factory.
Wow. Okay, so what happens?
Well, the revenue starts to dry up because the visionary is gone, the vendors get nervous.
But the fixed costs the rent for the factory, the payroll for the 30 employees, equipment leases. All of those bills keep coming every single month.
If that entrepreneur only had standard health insurance, their hospital bills might be covered, but their business would hemorrhage cash.
Fast.
They might have to take out high-interest loans, liquidate family assets, or ultimately lay off their staff and close the doors.
The legacy they spent 20 years building is wiped out in 6 months.
Exactly.
Okay.
However, if they were educated by someone like Ja-Net on protection strategies, they might have a robust life insurance policy with a critical illness living benefit rider.
Or a specialized key person insurance policy.
Yes.
Let's define key person insurance for the listeners really quick.
It's essentially life or disability insurance purchased by the business on the life of the owner or a crucial employee.
So the business pays the premiums.
And the business is the beneficiary.
Got it.
If that key person suffers a covered medical crisis, the policy pays a massive influx of tax-free cash directly into the business's operating account.
Wow. So it acts like a giant financial shock absorber.
Exactly. The company uses that influx of cash to keep making payroll, to assure vendors of their stability, or even to hire an expensive interim CEO to run the company while the owner recovers.
The business survives. The 30 employees keep their jobs.
The family's wealth engine continues to function.
The living benefit literally saves the legacy.
It protects the entire ecosystem.
To map out that kind of multi-layered systemic protection strategy requires someone who can really see the whole board.
It requires an educator who can explain the interactions between personal liability, corporate structure, and medical risk.
It's no wonder she partnered with Experior Financial Group.
The partnership is highly strategic.
Experior provides the back-office infrastructure, the compliance frameworks, and access to a vast array of top-tier insurance carriers.
By plugging into an existing fast-growing brokerage, Ja-Net doesn't have to reinvent the wheel regarding product development or carrier contracts.
She can leverage Experior's massive scale, freeing up almost all of her time and energy to focus on the customized, human-to-human education of her clients.
Which is where her true genius lies anyway.
Absolutely. Which transitions us beautifully into the third major segment of this announcement.
Because she isn't just stopping at directly helping consumers.
Right. The B2C or business-to-consumer side of things. She has actually identified a massive crippling bottleneck within the very industry she just entered.
And she is launching a service to solve it.
We're calling this segment the Synergy of the Niche.
A very fitting title.
The press release details the launch of specialized VA services under the JE Business Solutions umbrella.
Now, virtual assistant services are everywhere.
They really are. You can go online right now and hire a VA for $5 an hour to manage your calendar or sort your emails.
But the text explicitly states that Ja-Net's admin services will focus exclusively on licensed life insurance producers and agencies.
Exclusively. That exclusivity is the brilliance of the model.
She is not offering generic administrative support.
She is offering highly technical, industry-specific operational management.
Supported by her certification as an executive VA, by the way.
Yes, I saw that.
Sure.
So she has formalized the skill. And this is where we have to dive deep into the daily mechanical reality of running a life insurance agency.
Because to an outsider, selling insurance might just look like making phone calls and cashing commission checks.
That's certainly what I thought it was.
The reality is that the financial services sector is one of the most heavily scrutinized, regulated, and bureaucratically dense industries on the planet.
Let's talk about the friction of that industry, because the press release specifically states her VA services will help agencies streamline their businesses, stay compliant, and focus on growth.
Staying compliant is the key phrase there.
Right. We need to understand what staying compliant actually entails. Because I know it's not just a matter of filing things in alphabetical order.
Not even close. Let's look at the sheer weight of the regulatory environment. Insurance is regulated at the state level, not the federal level.
State law, okay.
This means if an agency wants to sell policies in California, Texas, and New York, they have to navigate 3 entirely different sets of laws.
3 sets of continuing education requirements.
3 different departments of insurance regulations. They have to maintain their licenses through the National Insurance Producer Registry, or NIPR.
Constantly tracking renewal dates and background check requirements.
Exactly.
So right off the bat, if you miss a single continuing education credit in Texas, your license lapses.
And any commission you earn while lapsed could be considered illegal.
Wow.
But it goes much deeper than just licensing. There are strict anti-money laundering, or AML, training protocols that must be updated annually.
Because life insurance can theoretically be used to launder illicit funds.
Exactly. And then there are rigorous suitability reviews.
Suitability reviews.
Yes, meaning an agent must legally prove with documentation that the specific policy they sold was financially suitable for the client's specific economic situation at the exact time of the sale.
Oh, wow. So if a client complains 3 years later and the agency cannot produce the suitability documentation, they can be heavily fined or lose their license entirely.
Entirely. It's a massive liability.
And what about the medical side of things? Because if you are applying for life insurance, you are dealing with people's health records.
That introduces IPOA compliance, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
Of course.
When an agent takes an application, they are gathering extremely sensitive medical history, previous surgeries, mental health diagnoses, prescription drug usage.
The transmission of that data to the insurance carriers for underwriting must be perfectly secure.
Absolutely secure. Now imagine an agency owner who is great at sales, great at educating clients, but terrible at paperwork.
They are drowning in this regulatory friction.
They decide they need help, so they hire a general virtual assistant.
Right. They go online, hire someone who is great at organizing Gmail and making Canva graphics and say, please handle my back office.
It's a disaster waiting to happen. The generic VA doesn't know what AML stands for.
They don't know the difference between a term policy and an IUL.
They don't understand the legal severity of a HIPAA violation when handling medical underwriting forms.
The agency owner will have to spend hundreds of hours training this generic VA.
And during that learning curve, the risk of a catastrophic compliance error is astronomically high.
But if that agency owner hires JE Business Solutions, they are hiring a VA service led by someone who is already a licensed life insurance producer.
Exactly. Ja-Net already holds the license. She speaks the language fluently.
She knows the carrier portal.
She understands the legal gravity of suitability and AML requirements. Furthermore, she spent a decade as a state employee for the Wisconsin Department of Health Services.
Oh, that is a massive connection.
It is the ultimate trump card. If you want someone who is utterly unshakable in the face of dense, unforgiving bureaucracy and strict regulatory compliance, you hire someone who spent 10 years operating inside a state government health department.
The Wisconsin DHS deals with Medicaid public health crises and massive state budgets.
The institutional rigidity and attention to detail required to survive in that environment make managing an insurance agency's compliance look like child's play.
And like we mentioned earlier, she has a certification as an executive VA.
So she isn't just relying on her past experience. She has actively formalized her administrative skills into a credentialed service.
Let's look at the business model this creates, because it is incredibly synergistic.
It really is.
We've seen this kind of dual-pronged approach in the tech world. Think of a company like HubSpot.
Right, HubSpot.
They didn't just sell CRM software. They essentially built an entire educational academy teaching people how to do inbound marketing.
And then, oh, by the way, offered the exact software needed to execute those strategies.
Exactly. By leading with education and systemic support, HubSpot drastically lowered their customer acquisition cost compared to traditional outbound sales companies.
Ja-Net is doing something similar with services.
She has a consumer-facing wing selling life insurance and a business-facing wing providing the exact operational infrastructure that other life insurance agents desperately need.
It creates a self-reinforcing flywheel of expertise.
A flywheel. I like that.
As she operates her specialized VA service, she gets an inside look at the operational mechanics of multiple high-performing insurance agencies.
She sees what marketing tactics are working. She sees which carriers have the fastest underwriting times. And she sees the most common compliance pitfalls.
She can then take all of that aggregated high-level industry intelligence and apply it directly to her own consumer-facing financial solutions practice, making her more efficient and competitive.
And conversely, the direct on-the-ground experience she gains by sitting at the kitchen table with families and entrepreneurs keeps her sharply attuned to the evolving needs of the consumer.
Which makes her VA services infinitely more valuable to the agencies she supports.
Because she isn't just an administrator, she is an active practitioner who deeply understands the ultimate end user.
The B2B and the B2C sides of the business feed each other continuously.
The stronger one side gets, the faster the other side spins.
It is a brilliantly constructed business ecosystem.
It really is.
Yeah.
But maintaining an ecosystem of that complexity, one that requires such a high degree of technical skill and emotional intelligence, is impossible for one person to do alone indefinitely.
No, you have to scale. You have to bring in other people.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most revealing segment of our analysis: cultivating a purpose-driven culture.
This is where we see the long-term vision.
The press release concludes with an announcement of a team expansion. JE Business Solutions is actively looking to build a team of licensed financial agents.
But the language they use to recruit is starkly different from industry norms.
It really stood out to me. They are seeking driven, purpose-minded individuals.
They emphasize their overarching mission to serve with respect, humanity, and excellence.
And they explicitly invite those who want to join a supportive team that values people over profit.
People over profit.
Let's really analyze that phrase, because in the context of a 100% commission-based financial sales industry, that phrase almost sounds like an oxymoron.
I know. How does an agency actually survive, let alone grow, with a people over profit mentality?
I can imagine a cynic looking at that and saying, that's a nice sentiment for a nonprofit, but this is a brokerage. If you don't prioritize profit, you go out of business.
It's a fair question, and to answer it, we have to examine the economics of the traditional boiler room agency versus the academy model that Ja-Net is building.
Okay, let's break down those economics.
In a traditional profit-first, high-pressure agency, the recruitment strategy is to bring in dozens of raw recruits, often calling them hustlers or closers.
Right.
They are given minimal training on the actual products, but extensive training on aggressive sales scripts and objection handling.
The goal is to get them to sell policies to their immediate friends and family as quickly as possible.
Burn through their warm market.
Precisely. Now, what happens economically? Yes, the agency sees a quick spike in short-term profit.
Because of all those initial sales.
But high-pressure sales lead to incredibly high cancellation rates.
Clients realize they bought something they don't understand or can't afford, and they cancel the direct debit.
In the insurance industry, when a policy cancels within the first year, it triggers what is called a chargeback.
Right, a chargeback.
The agent, and often the agency, has to literally pay back the commission they already spent.
Ouch. That is a brutal financial reality.
It is. The financial stress of chargebacks, combined with the moral injury of constantly pushing products on reluctant people, leads to a massive burnout rate.
The turnover in those types of agencies is astronomical.
The agency is forced to constantly spend time and money recruiting new people just to replace the ones fleeing out the back door.
It is a highly inefficient, unstable, and stressful way to run a business.
Now contrast that with the people over profit model, the educational academy approach.
In the educational model, you prioritize the humanity of the client first.
You ensure they thoroughly understand the product. You ensure it fits perfectly within their budget.
You might even advise them to buy a smaller, less profitable policy because it is more suitable for their current economic reality.
Taking a smaller commission up front.
Exactly. You sacrifice immediate maximum profit for the sake of the person. But what is the long-term economic result?
A policy sold through thorough education and mutual agreement has a near zero cancellation rate.
There are no chargebacks. The revenue is stable and predictable.
Furthermore, that client now trusts you implicitly. They don't feel like they were sold. They feel like they were served.
They become an evangelist for your business. The lifetime value, or LTV, of that client skyrockets.
They refer their business partners to you. They bring their adult children to you.
You build immense relational capital, which eventually translates into a vastly more profitable, sustainable, and scalable business than the boiler room ever could.
It's the difference between hunting and farming. The high-pressure agency is constantly hunting, and if they miss, they starve.
Ja-Net is farming. She is cultivating deep roots that will yield harvests for decades.
And if we connect this back to her background, it all snaps into perfect focus. Why is she looking for purpose-minded individuals?
Because she has spent her entire life as a mentor, a teacher, and a coach.
You don't coach Special Olympics to get rich quickly.
You do it to empower individuals who are often overlooked. You do it to build confidence and capability over a long timeline.
Her background suggests that this team expansion will not function as a sales floor, but as a professional development academy.
She isn't just hiring agents to increase her bottom line, she is recruiting disciples to a specific philosophy of care.
She intends to nurture them, teach them the rigorous compliance standards she mastered at the DHS, and mold them to adopt her specific educator approach to financial solutions.
I want to ask you, the listener, to put yourself in the shoes of someone looking to make a career change into financial services.
It's an intimidating, highly regulated industry with a steep learning curve. How would you want to learn the ropes?
Would you want to be thrown into a cutthroat environment where your worth is entirely dependent on your weekly closing numbers, managed by someone whose primary skill is shouting motivational slogans?
Or would you want to be apprenticed to someone with 20 years of educational experience, 10 years of state-level regulatory experience, and certifications in family strategy?
Someone who explicitly prioritizes your humanity and the humanity of your clients over the immediate commission check.
It is an incredibly compelling recruitment pitch. By explicitly stating these values in the press release, she is proactively filtering her applicant pool.
She is repelling the transactional hustlers who just want to make a quick buck, and she is acting as a magnet for empathetic, detail-oriented professionals who actually want to build a sustainable career.
It is a profound differentiator in a crowded marketplace. It demonstrates that the core of JE Business Solutions isn't the specific financial products they sell or the specific VA tasks they perform.
The core is the methodology of service. The underlying operating system of the entire company is structured, compassionate education.
Let's take a breath and zoom out to look at the entire landscape we've just traversed. We took a single press release, a company expansion announcement, and by reading the subtext and analyzing the founder's background, we've uncovered a brilliantly engineered business model.
To summarize the mechanics of this operation, the evolution of JE Business Solutions is a masterclass in skill arbitrage.
Ja-Net Edgecombe did not discard her 30 years of public service, special needs advocacy, and educational leadership. She actively translated those experiences to create an immediate competitive advantage in a completely different sector.
The architecture relies on three interconnected pillars. First, the financial solutions wing, utilizing advanced tools like living benefits to provide holistic systemic protection for families and business owners, guided by the empathy of a certified family strategist.
Second, the specialized VA services wing, uniquely equipped to handle the severe compliance and regulatory friction of the insurance industry, drawing directly on her institutional experience with the Wisconsin Department of Health Services.
And third, the team expansion, cultivating a culture of mentorship that prioritizes long-term relational capital people over profit over short-term transactional gains.
These three pillars constantly reinforce one another. The B2C insights improve the B2B services. The B2B operational efficiency informs the B2C strategies, and the purpose-driven culture ensures the entire system remains stable, compliant, and client-focused.
It is a highly resilient ecosystem.
It really is a blueprint for how to reinvent yourself professionally without losing your core identity. It proves that your deepest skills, the things you learned, not in a boardroom, but in a classroom in a State Department, or while advocating for your own children, are incredibly transferable if you take the time to figure out the translations.
Which leads to a really interesting question for anyone listening.
It does. Which leads me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. As you go about your day, I want you to think critically about your own career trajectory. We all hide behind our titles: manager, software developer, accountant, director. But beneath that corporate title is your actual core competency.
If you were forced to completely pivot your career tomorrow, if your industry vanished, and you had to start entirely fresh in a completely foreign sector, what is that one underlying core skill that would remain your absolute foundation?
What is the skill you rely on when the manual doesn't have the answer? For Ja-Net, it was her unrelenting ability to educate, advocate, and structure chaos into service. She used her educator's edge to carve out a massive niche in the financial world.
So what is your hidden edge? What is the skill you currently take for granted that could become your ultimate competitive moat in a different arena?
It's a big question, but figuring out the answer might just be the blueprint for your own professional evolution. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We love unpacking these fascinating multi-layered strategies with you, and we cannot wait to dive into the next one. Take care.